that don't. Okay. All right. Um, so not many people have their cameras on, so I can't see, but Jamie, you do. So yay, thank you for that. It's much nicer to talk to a beautiful face.
Well,
Um,
I was tempted not to turn my video on, but there you have it.
I know. Is it because I record them that people don't want to turn the video on?
I don't know.
Or is it just because maybe it's Saturday and they're just kind of not feeling like being seen?
I didn't comb my hair.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I understand, and that's fine. Um, do you have the yarn, Jamie, for the sweater?
I do. I don't have it with me, but I do have
Okay.
it, and I have the pattern right here. The yarn
Okay.
is still up, but yeah.
Okay.
I I did have a question. If you
Mhm.
are you taking questions
Absolutely.
or
Yep. Let's start
oh.
with questions.
So I just started. I just am doing my swatch. That's where I am in the process, and I this is sort of actually a general question because I know some of the sweaters, and sorry, I'm still sort of an beginning intermediate knitter, so this is maybe a newbie sort of stupid question, but some of the sweaters knit in the round, and so I'm swatching in the round, but some of it's also knitted flat. So should I do two swatches?
No, no, you don't have to do two swatches. Yeah, swatching in the round is great, and I did swatch in the round, and I'm not sure where I have um lost my swatch right now. But yeah, that's a really good idea to swatch in the round. Most of the sweater is done in the round. There's obviously you get up to the armholes and then you need to break, and it will be fine.
Right.
It won't make that much of a difference. But yeah, the main part of the sweater where it fits through your torso will be correct if you've swatched in the round.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anyone else have oh, Cheryl, I have the yarn and never finished and then got stuck because it had been too long ago. Oh, well, this is perfect for you then, Cheryl. Um, Wonderful. Where are you stuck? Where would you need some help? Merritt, I know that you started also from last year. Oh,
Yeah.
you're where you separate the armholes and neck. Okay, we'll talk about that. In fact, that's exactly where I'm at
Oh,
on
good.
my sweater right now. I've knitted up to the armholes and then I have decreased on both sides. Um, so we can talk about that.
Mhm.
And Merritt, welcome. Glad you're here. I hope we can get you. Where are you stuck? I know we emailed back and forth earlier this week.
I'm not really stuck right now. I'm just doing kind of plugging along.
Okay,
Yeah, it
okay.
seems to be
Where
going
are you?
easy. Well, I'm like what is it? Let's see. I already did the ribbing, and right now I'm on the second half of the increase round. So that's kind of where I'm
Mhm.
at. So
Right. So
yeah.
here's the
Yeah. So I'm kind of in the
increases on this side.
second increase that's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
and I decided to not do the 5 row 5 round ribbing because I figure 5 inches is way too much for me. So I changed it to 3.
I did the same exact thing.
Yeah. I felt like it was just like overtaking the entire thing when you do 5 inches. Like, really? Why do we need that?
Yeah, it was really a statement, and I think maybe
Yeah.
like on my younger daughter, it might have
Yeah.
looked really cute. But
Yes.
I actually decided to do mine, and this is what's so much fun about knitting is I decided to do mine just shorter all the way around. So
Yeah.
I made this 3 inches, and then I think it asks for 15 inches or something like that. I made this small. And I think it asked for 15 inches, and
Yeah.
I made mine a little over 13 inches
Yeah.
up to the armhole, just because I wanted it just to sit. Jeans are now high-waisted.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
style. And so I thought, well, let's have it just sit, at my hip or, at the
Right.
bottom of my waist. So that's what I'm experimenting with this year, and I'm seeing if I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about this. We'll talk about the separation. Does anyone else have any questions so that I can kind of get things in line before I start showing, and then I'll hop right into the separation for the armholes and neck.
Mhm.
No other questions?
I'm not there yet.
Okay, okay. Well, let's just talk about it then. Let's start from the beginning. Just do a little start. Jamie mentioned that she went ahead and she swatched in the round, which is always a really good idea. There are many videos for that on YouTube. There's a couple different ways of doing it. I always end up just doing it the old-fashioned way, and I can't believe that I've misplaced my. I think I cleaned up, and anyway. Um, anyway, basically what you do is you knit a row, and then instead of turning the work, you simply slide the stitches to the other end of the circular needle, put that loose yarn behind, and then knit another row. Does
I have,
anybody want me to show you how to do that, or is that
I
something
have a
that
suggestion.
yes,
Um, this is Martin. I have a suggestion that I don't know if you're familiar with Patty Lyons,
I am.
but she has a book. It's called The Knitting Bag of Tricks. And in here on she talks about the lazy method of knitting in the round. And it's basically an alternative to doing all that big loop-de-loop that you do in the very back end.
Uh-huh.
And what she does basically is you cast on your knit and then you add on 2 extra stitches for however much you want to do for your swatch. And then you knit a whole row across. Then you slide it to the other side and you do a backwards loop knitting on the first stitch and just continue knitting. Okay. And then you do your wrap around. You do your 5 times. You go back and forth 5 times for your yarn. It's a really good method. And what it does is, I'll even show you what it does. If I can get my video working. Okay, this is kind of what it does. See that?
It just leaves a loop at the end.
Yeah, and you're knitting in the round, but you're not having to keep tracking that whole big old
Pulling
loop.
it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that the edges. I don't know if you can see that, but the edges are very nice and neat and clean
Yeah, instead of being loopy
because
like
you're
they are.
doing a backward knit.
I'm looking here to find a video of hers that I can give to you, ladies.
Yeah, I think she's probably got it. You have to kind of look, but anyway, this is the book I have. It's called Patty Lyons. Knitting
Here we
back.
go. It says Patty Lyons Circular Knitting. Well, here. Here's here's another lady showing that very way. Yeah, there's many different ways. So go onto YouTube, pick the way you want, pick the way it works for you.
You might try it though. You might try the Patty Lyons method because it's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will definitely try that, Merritt.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I will definitely try that. Um, I knew there were different ways, but when I was doing it, I was sort of in a hurry and I just did it. Now I didn't cut the yarn. Oh, I know that's why I can't find it. It's attached to a ball of yarn because I didn't cut it so that I can unravel it. I'm not going to waste all that yarn. But yeah, swatching the round is always a good idea. There is a positive ease in this sweater. It's a little bit in the loose condition, I usually knit a medium. I knit a small this time because that measurement just seemed to kind of fit with my gauge a little bit better. But that's a good way to play around with. If you're concerned your sweater's not going to fit, you've swatched and your changing needles isn't working, just change the size that you're knitting.
Mhm.
You don't want to change more than one, two sizes of needles at the most. But anyway, so if you're more than one needle off, I'd say just change the size that
Mhm.
you are knitting, and that will get you to the correct measurement. So, okay, there aren't any more questions about that. And thank you, Merritt. I appreciate
Mhm.
bringing that to our attention. I think that's really good. I like to learn new tips, so that's fantastic. Um, then with a smaller, this is really quite a nice, easy sweater with a smaller needle, long tail cast on your amount of stitches, join to work in the round without twisting, knit as much rib as you want, knit 2 inches, knit, well, you can play with this. That's the fun part. I like the 5 inch look. I made one last year with a 5 inch and liked it. I thought I'd play around with it this year with the 3 inch. The thing that you'll want to do is make sure no matter how long you make that ribbing or how deep you make that ribbing, make sure that your entire length is the size that you want it. Your entire, the
Mhm.
depth where it says to make it 15 inches. If you want it to be 15 inches from your armhole to the bottom of the sweater, then make sure the entire thing is 15 inches, even if maybe your ribbing is 2 inches or whatever you
Mhm.
want it to be.
Yeah.
So that's pretty straightforward. I don't think anybody will have any trouble with that. Dividing the front and the back then. And that's where Cheryl was. So let's talk about that. Let me switch my camera. So I like to use, I don't know if you have interchangeable needles with a cable and the little stoppers on both ends. That's what I like to use for holding these long, you know,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
levels of yarn. Now, there is one little thing that I want to tell you. You're knitting in the round, and then they say, where is it? It says, beginning with a right side row. Okay, place last so many number, mine is 80 stitches worked on hold for the back. Make sure that you've knit one more stitch, like knit 81 stitches so that your yarn isn't caught on the round that you're putting on the hold portion, on the cable portion. Does that make sense?
Could you just
You're
repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't say that very clearly. So pretend like this is in the round, and all 160 stitches are in the round. So I'm supposed to knit. I've knitted in the round, and I've come to my marker, and then it says place the last 80 stitches worked on hold for the back. Well, if my marker is sitting here, and I've put here's the last 80 stitches are the last 80 stitches that I knitted, that yarn is connected to this stitch,
Mhm.
the stitch before. Knit
Mhm.
one more stitch so that you get your working yarn and you don't end up trapping it on what I put, what I then put the last 80 stitches on the cable. Is that making sense now?
Mhm.
Okay, because if you knit up to the marker, here's the in the round, and I've knit up to the marker, and then it says, okay, so my working yarn is sitting right here because this is the last stitch and the marker is sitting here. This is my last stitch. If you knit around and your live yarn is right here and you want to put the last 80 stitches that you just knit on a cable, you want to knit one more stitch to get your live yarn on the part that you're going to keep knitting on. You don't want to trap it on that cable. Okay, I've probably said that enough. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear because that's a little place where I know people have um, gotten stuck. So then I'm right here and I started knitting in rows and I bound off 3 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. So Cheryl, does that make sense to you? I want to make sure that we just go this step by step and not skip anything.
Hmm.
You know how to bind off 3 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. So you'll bind off 3 stitches knitwise, which is what I did right here. Here are the 3 stitches I bound off. I knitted my row, turned my work, and I bound off 3 stitches purlwise right here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's the next 2 rows.
Mm-hmm.
Then I finished that row, turned my work again, and I'm on the right side. And then I started working a decrease row. And that's right here. And it makes a beautiful decrease here that where the little stitches just kind of all line up. And then this kind of funky stitch here on the end is what you're going to use to put your needle in to pick up stitches when you do the armhole facing. And so you'll have your little rib, but it will start here and you'll have a nice clean edge. And that's why they've made it knit 1. So that's kind of messy here on the edge. And then you knit 2 together through the back loop
Mm-hmm.
on the right side row, at the beginning of the right side row. You get to the end, you leave 3 stitches, and then you knit these 2 together,
Mm-hmm.
just regular through the front, and you'll get this nice decrease stitch pattern here to where this is your last stitch of the row that will be knitted into so that that will be a nice edge, nice neat edge.
Mm-hmm.
Turn your work and purl. And then you repeat those last 2 rows 5 times. And if you lose track on how many times, if you lose track on how many times that you have repeated it, just count your stitches and see where you're at, and you'll be able to see, oh, I've got 4 stitches too many. It says I'm supposed to have 62, but I've got 66. So that means I need to do 4 more rows or 2 more repeats. So that's another trick on how to, in case you've forgotten, or I don't know, whatever way that you keep track.
Mm-hmm.
You get mixed up on. So then you work even in stockinette stitch for until the armhole measures 4.5 inches for the small size. So I think I had to knit 2 more rows or something before I got to that. And let me show you how to measure this so here it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've done my decreases and I knit, I think, 2 more rows. So let's look and see how we can. I just lay something flat along the stitches like that from the bottom of the armhole.
Mm-hmm.
This is really the bottom of the armhole, so I think I would lay it like that. You can see it goes right across the rows, and I measure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
And there we go. I think, yeah, there we go. There's 4.5 inches.
That's the way to do it. Oh.
So just put it right along the row of stitches. You can see, let's see, did I get it or did I get off one? There. Anyway, there's 4.5 inches.
Mm. Mm.
Then you end with a wrong side row. And then you're at shaping the front neck. So Cheryl, did you get through that portion already? Or is that the place where you were stuck? Yes. Yeah, yes, you yes, you got through this portion already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So you've done this. Now you're at shaping the front neck. So I can just start knitting it here.
Mm.
So we'll knit 20. Mine is knit 20 and place on hold for the second shoulder.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh, just knit across. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Now, once again, here, let me grab a, you can use a cable, you can use, there's many different kinds. I have some ones that I really, really like, but they're unfortunately already on unfinished objects. So once again here, I'll demonstrate what I was trying to tell you before about the round. If I take this and put this on a holder, I will have trapped my yarn here.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to knit one more stitch to get it on the next section of work. Does that make sense now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes better sense. Okay. So then we'll put this on a holder. So now we have the back on the holder, and we'll have the shoulder on the holder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. It's got really sharp edges. I'm not crazy about these, but anyway, I've used all to get some more. There we are. We've got 20 on there, and then I'm supposed to knit 22 and place on hold for the center neck. So this one's already knitted. Don't want to knit it again. Is this helpful? Is this making sense, Cheryl?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I see a yes. Oh, is everybody hot? I know somebody said they were hot earlier. Is everybody else hot too? It's just one of those weekends. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 8, 22. Let's see. 1, 2. I'll do the same thing. I'll knit one extra, put it back on this needle, and then 22 for the center of the neck. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 22. And let me grab another little one of these doohickeys and put that. This is a really great sweater for you to, if you've never knit a sweater before, and some of these little techniques is like, what am I supposed to do here? This is a really great sweater to learn on because it is, the yarn is so easy to knit with, and it's a real basic construction. You'll need these terms and these techniques will be used on other sweaters and other, projects in the future. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, it's a nice it's a nice sweater to learn on. So there, now I have my uh this will be my left shoulder and the center of the neck. So what I'm going to want to end up with is a slight scoop here, right? I don't
Uh-huh.
want to knit this at the same level as I knit this. We want some shoulders to come up and then a slight scoop for the neck.
Mhm.
So everybody with me?
Yep.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so then it says bind off 2 stitches and knit to end. So bind off 2 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and knit all the way to the end. And I should have 18 stitches remaining for my first shoulder. 2, 4, 14, 16. Yep, I'll have 18. So there we go. Now I've got a cable that's really, really long because this is left over from my knitting in the round. Perfectly fine to just keep knitting with it. If you're more comfortable and the cable starts getting in the way, it's fine also to switch to shorter cables if you've got a, a interchangeable set. Or either way, even if you don't, you just switch to a size 8 with or no, this is a 10, size 10 with shorter cables.
Mhm.
But no problem to knit with longer cables. All right. So
Mhm.
now I'm going to, obviously they want us to work on this right shoulder.
Mhm.
So you turn your work and purl on this side.
Mhm.
Is this helpful? Does everyone want me to continue knitting it through, or do you want me, or would you rather I just talk it through?
I think it's
Let me,
fine. Yeah.
it's fine. Okay.
I think so.
Sometimes when I'm knitting like this, I feel like it's just boring. So, oh. So in case anybody wonders what I'm doing, I'm a lifelong left-handed knitter, and a couple of years ago, I decided I needed to learn how to do, if I was going to do these knit-alongs, I needed to learn how to knit right-handed because most people knit right-handed.
Mhm.
And so I taught myself to knit continental right-handed. So I'm a left-handed thrower, not a left-handed continental. I'm a left-handed thrower. So this was a whole new thing for me to learn. And then I came upon this tip, which really made my knitting um, a
Hmm.
lot more even. And this is I'm not sure the exact name. I need to look it up. I was going to look it up. Um, it- it's the Norwegian way of purling continental style. And what
Oh.
it does is it's easier for me since I'm a left-handed knitter, really. This is still a little bit like patting my head and rubbing my tummy or whatever. It's still not quite as comfortable for me as knitting left-handed. So this way of knitting, it works better with small needles, like fingering. It's a little quicker, but anyway, that's what works for me.
Mm.
So, but and a lady on the last knit along, the first week of the last knit along, she knits continental, and so she looked this up and tried this method, and I think she really likes it. She came the next time, she goes, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing now."
Mhm.
So, uh, turn the work again, and the next row on the right side is knit one. And then you knit two together through the back loop. And so that's familiar from the armhole. So what they're giving you is they're giving you that nice stitch definement, like it's right here for when, so that when you pick up, you can pick up that extra first stitch that's a little bit messy, and you can have a nice, neat
Ah,
row left for when you pick up.
uh-huh.
So on the beginning of the row, you always knit two together through the back loop, and that puts the stitches in the correct uh,
Mhm.
way. And then on the front row, you knit regular, as I will show you, knit to end. So
Mm. Mhm.
actually, they're not having you decrease on this side. They want you to go straight for a little while. So we'll just knit to the end, and there's only one stitch decreased.
Mm.
Next row, purl. And then and then after I finish this purl row, repeat those last two rows, just like you did on the armhole. You repeat those last two rows uh, three more times until I will have 14 stitches left on my needle. And then I work even, and then I will do that same thing again. It says work even in stockinette until the armhole measures, mine says 8 inches from the underarm. So once I'm all done with repeating these last two rows three more times, then I want to measure it before I work even to see how much farther I need to go. Sometimes, depending on, how we knit and our tension, it changes. So sometimes you're there already and it's like, oh, okay, I don't need to knit anymore. Or maybe you'll only need to knit a couple of rows. You always end with a wrong side row, so you'll always knit you'll always knit an even number of rows after that. So it'll be 2 or 4 or 6 to get that length or that measurement. And you'll measure it the same as I showed you, by putting a straight edge across the bottom of the armhole again and measuring the whole uh, length of it now, because this one will be much higher because we've done all this knitting. And don't worry, it looks a little weird here. Not a problem. When we pick all the stitches up and knit that little rib at the portion at the top, you're going to be in good shape. Don't have to worry about it. So three more times. Let's see. Do what I just did three more times, then lay it out again. Let's see, lay it out again and measure from the bottom of the armhole, and I'm going to want it to say 8 inches. Okay. So I don't think do I need to do all of that, or is that clear to everyone? Oh, where do you start measuring from? Um, it's the same thing as before, the same thing as when we measured up to when it was time to break these off. Remember, back on page 2, where it says, is it on page 2? No, it's on page 3. I'm sorry. Until the armhole measure, right at the top of page 3 on the left there, where it says work even in stockinette stitch until the armhole measures minus 4.5 inches. So it's the same thing. We start measuring from the very same place. Lay it across. And then I have 2 more repeats to do, and then I will measure up again, and I need it to say 8 inches. Mine needs to be 8 inches. So I have 3 more repeats plus some even knitting to get it to be 8 inches. So that's it. So it's that straight section at the bottom. Yeah, the way, it's kind of hard if you start measuring from here. This is where you're supposed to start measuring from. This is your armhole. So you start measuring at the bottom of the armhole, right? But if I didn't put something straight across there, it would be a little bit confusing, because here I am with it over here, and here I am with here. I suppose you could do that and put the straight edge across, you know. But this way, you're getting it straight across because you can pick a row. So let's pick this row, and let's go straight across all of those stitches. So I know I have this straight, and then put it right there and measure up to 8 inches. So clear, or clear as mud?
It's clear.
It's clear. Okay, good. Um,
I'm just trying to find out where, because you said, never mind. I found it. Never mind. Thank you.
okay. Sure. So then continuing on, once I've measured it and it's 8 inches, then I put those stitches on hold. Okay, so now I'm down to place stitches on hold for first shoulder. So if everybody looks on the left under shape front neck at the top of the page, you'll get down to the row that says place, or the part that says place stitches on hold for first shoulder. It's a little hard to pick the row because I have that. Oh, well, then Cheryl, just, if you're a row off, that's fine. But, you can kind of eye it and see, even if I were to stand up and I were to say, okay, that's straight, this isn't straight. If I'm standing up and looking at it, this is straight across. So if you can't pick a row, then get a good look at it, and and excuse me, eyeball it, okay? Okay, cool. Um, and yes, Merritt, good. I don't know where I found this technique, but yeah, it works well. Okay, so I put these stitches on hold, and then it says to transfer held second shoulder stitches to a size 10. It says 32-inch circular needle. I think that's just because that's what you have. And then with right side facing, so we would transfer it this way, and I would say this is off. Well, here, let me take it off, and then I can show you. me take this off and then let's move on. Next week, I want to pull off one of my finished objects, if I can remember to do that. My favorite type of uh, holders. They're like little cables, and and they have like a really short little kind of knitting needle on the end, so they've got their own needle already attached to them, and they're bendy like this, and then they just have a little hole that you stick it through like a little stopper. It's really clever, and they are my favorite, and I need to get more of them. Okay, so we turn the whole thing over. So this is now our second shoulder, and it says, look down to where it says transfer held second shoulder stitches to larger 32-inch needle. So I'm getting not in front of the camera. That's right. The kit comes in printed cotton as well. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, I love that printed cotton. It's beautiful. Just thinking about what Cheryl said. Okay. So here we are with our second shoulder, and with wrong side facing, we join some new yarn. It doesn't say to cut the yarn on the first shoulder, but I think, you can detach the yarn and use that same one. I'm not going to, since I'm not done, but got another ball here, cake here, ready to go. I didn't like that. I don't like that. There. I kind of hang on to that first that raw or the end of the yarn ball, just to after a couple stitches, so that it attached is not going to come pulling out. Okay. So then join yarn. Oops, I'm supposed to bind off 2 stitches. I wasn't watching the pattern. Okay, bind off 2 stitches. So here's one, just like we did on the other one. And remember, we're always binding off the stitches in the center, right? Because we're starting that swoop, and they want to really quickly bind off. They don't want to just slowly do 1 stitch on each row. They want to, on the first one, really quickly bind off so that it starts swooping up, so that the neckline is a circle. Does that make sense? For the second armhole, we want to make sure it's the same number of rows as that first armhole. Yes, you don't have to count the rows. You can if you want, but if you're knitting you want it 8 inches. So if you've knit one row or several rows too tightly, and if you do the same number of rows and it's going to be slightly shorter, quarter inch shorter, or something like that, you maybe want to knit an extra couple rows because you want it to be 8 inches. If you're knitting consistently, it should just naturally be the same without, if you're not stretching, when you measure, don't stretch things, especially the second one. You can fold it in half and hold it together to see if those two, the two are even after you've measured. Does that make sense? It's most important that you have the same number of inches on both sides, regardless of the rows. If you knitted wonky, now naturally we don't want to knit wonky, but sometimes we all do. I think it will naturally be pretty much the same. Oh, wait, you know what? I think with all my jabbering, I think I only decreased one, didn't I? I got off track. And here's the second one. Yeah, 18. That's what I want. That's what I had on the other side after I bound off. Okay. And then it's the same way here. Knit to the last 3 stitches, knit 2 together on the next row, knit 1, and there's your 3 stitches decreased. Purl again, and then repeat those last 2 rows 3 more times. Work even in stockinette stitch until the armhole measures 8 inches. So it's the exact same thing. The only difference is you started on the wrong side so that you could get this bind off in the middle, the same as here. We had to do it on the right side, on the other shoulder. And then place these stitches on hold for the second shoulder. So since it's been a couple of years, I'm a little concerned by the gauge, might not be the same. If you want to do a quick swatch to see if you're knitting the same, or have you already knit one shoulder? No, you haven't knit one shoulder. So your shoulders will be the same if you just start out knitting where you are. I don't think I'd worry too much about that unless you've just changed your level considerably, your knitting level, and you're really, really extremely different, than you were. I don't think I'd worry about it, especially if you haven't done if you haven't done the shoulder yet, both shoulders will be the same. And also if the gauge is slightly different when you block it, all the stitches kind of relax. You'll soak it. We'll talk about that as well. We'll soak it a little bit. I know cotton doesn't have much of a memory, but still you're going to want to either steam block it or soak it and let it bloom and relax a little bit. And all these kind of stitches that look a little, uneven, everything will kind of even out. And if you steam it, it will do the same if you lightly steam it. Lately, that's what I've liked to do. So go through that second shoulder just exactly the same way. Put this shoulder on a holder, and then you're ready for the back. So you're going to go to the back, and you're going to do virtually the same thing. The exact same thing, because the front and the back are the same number of stitches. You put the same number of stitches on the back as the front, and you'll do exactly as you did the front armhole shaping.
Mhm.
There won't be anything different.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty.
Like it.
It's
Mhm.
really such a lovely little such a
Mhm.
lovely little summery sweater, and I'm looking forward to wearing mine.
Mhm.
I'm ready to get it done. So hopefully it'll be done by next week. Um, so we can oh wait, let me take spotlight off me. So we can all usually I have bright smiley faces to look at. So I miss seeing all of you today. Anyway, then next week I will show you how to do the 3 needle bind off for the
Oh.
shoulders. And because I will have my shoulders knitted up and ready to do that. And so it's just a way of attaching, say this shoulder was finished and this is the shoulder that was finished. It's just a way of attaching the two together that
Mhm.
makes it look seamless and beautiful, and
Mhm.
it's lovely and it's not hard. You know, here's the deal. Nothing really in knitting is hard. It's just a matter of learning how to do it. Just you just learn how to do that technique, and then it's like, oh, okay, well now I have that in my toolkit. And it never stops. I mean, just like Merritt telling me about um the Patty Lyons different way of gauge swatching. There's just always something new. And with YouTube, it's just this plethora of
Mhm.
information out there. It's just exciting to me I would have never known how to learn how to knit continental right-handed. And, there's all sorts of things I would have never learned or never known how to do if I was just in my own little silo and didn't have a knitting mentor. But this is like having hundreds of knitting mentors. So I love it. Okay, so next week I'll show you how to do the 3 needle bind off.
Okay.
And then if you get that far and you don't want to tackle the 3 needle bind off on your own, you can go ahead and skip to the sleeves.
Mhm.
No, you can't.
Mhm.
Hold on, I'm reading the no, you can't, because you got to pick up. So never mind. So the sleeves aren't hard because all you're doing is just knitting those little
Mhm.
that little ribbing, that little bit of, yeah, it's just 1 3/4 inches of ribbing.
Mhm.
So easy. So next week we'll do that. We'll do the 3 needle bind off, and we'll talk about picking up stitches. I have a couple
Okay.
little tips on picking up stitches.
Okay.
And you'll have a sweater all ready to wear for summer.
Okay.
And if we can't attend a session, you're like next week, you'll record, and so you will be able to watch it afterwards.
Okay.
Great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like
I
your
record
video. I
them.
like your visuals.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
your
Thank you.
visuals of you showing of laying it out and the measuring and all that. That really helps.
Good, good. No matter how much, I guess going back to what I was saying before, no matter how much we know about knitting, there's always more to learn. So, you can just pick up. And I just love these to be little sessions where we can share some of those tidbits, like Merritt shared it. And oh, Lainey, you're very
Mhm.
welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Um, it's been an hour, and I found lately that an hour is about right for these sessions.
Mhm.
So get your needles back. Cheryl, you have no idea how many sets of needles I have. I go into this set of needles, and there's no needles in there because they're all in unfinished objects. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week, and have a great week knitting. If you have any questions during the week, hop into the Facebook group. I'll be in there, and I'll help you out as best I know.
Okay. Thank you.
So bye bye. Have a great weekend.